Hello and welcome to episode 19 of CGI Unpacked, and today we're going to talk about harbour and airport policing in Northern Ireland. And I'm really pleased to be joined today by a number of inspected organisations that were involved in this inspection, as well as the lead inspector. So I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves. Claire, would you like to start off?
I'm Claire Feehan. I'm an inspector with Criminal Justice Inspection, and I was the lead inspector for this inspection.
And I'm Michael Daly. I'm the Chief Officer for Belfast Harbour Police.
Hello, and thanks for the invitation, Jackie. Very pleased to be here today. So my name is Romain Olive. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Belfast International Airport.
And I'm Mark Roberts, Police Service Northern Ireland. I hold the Aviation Security and Airport Policing Command portfolio.
Thank you all. And I should have said at the start that I'm Jackie Durkin, the Chief Inspector of Criminal Justice in Northern Ireland. You're all very welcome. And today we want to talk about the inspection of harbour and airport policing in Northern Ireland. So Claire, I'm going to turn to you first. Can you just give us an overview of what this inspection was about?
Sure. So this inspection was an opportunity for us to look at two of the smaller organisations that's within our remit. That's the Belfast International Airport Constabulary and the Belfast Harbour Police. They're two private police services operating in Northern Ireland with their own sort of unique and small jurisdictions. And it provided us an opportunity really to go on and look at harbours and airports in Northern Ireland in terms of, key exit and entry points in Northern Ireland that are not only that, but they're revitalised sort of economic spaces, and in the case of the harbour, growing residential, social and sort of recreational spaces as well. So it gives us an opportunity to think about how those areas are policed, what those independent police services are doing, and how they're doing what they're doing.
So I'm going to turn to you, Michael, to talk about, Claire mentioned about how the harbour state has changed so much in recent years. So what challenges has that brought in terms of policing?
I think one of our main responsibilities is security under the ISPS regulations, which is the International Ship and Import Security. So that's one of the main roles that we would have that the PSNI don't have. And we also, unlike our peers in GB, we also have residential premises. We have hotels, we have iconic signature building, we have SSE Arena, we have an airport, and we have Hollywood Exchange. And these are all challenges for us because as ports policing goes, our GB counterparts don't have any of that. So we're constantly trying to maintain the national standard for the service that we deliver, which is basically neighbourhood and response policing. But the challenges for us now in the future, as you probably have seen on the landscape around Belfast Harbour, is the increase in residential development. Sure, we're going to have a lot more people living there, and a beautiful place to live, but you're still living basically in a working port. So there are a lot of challenges around safety and keeping people safe, not from crime and from antisocial behaviour and all the normal policing activities, but we also have the added responsibility of water safety. So that's rapidly changing.
Yeah. And huge changes certainly over the last decade, and I know big plans for the future. So I mean, in terms of the international airport, and this was the first time CGI, even though International Airport Constabulary has been in our statutory remit, this is the first inspection of it. So in terms of what's happening at the international airport, have you seen much of a change in recent years about what the policing needs are and the response?
Yeah, obviously, as rightly said by Claire, Belfast International Airport is a major infrastructure of the country, and being one of the main gateway to the country, we welcome everywhere around 7 million passengers. We're also one of the largest airports in the entire island, and our main priority is to ensure safety and security of our passengers. We're obviously heavily regulated with the civil aviation and the Department of Transport, but also we receive a large amount of public in our airport, and our main priority again is to make sure our passengers got a safe and pleasant journey. So we got a small team of airport police officers. We have around 18 police officers split in 4 sections, and our day-to-day focus is to make sure we have a safe journey. Again, And I think when you look at the overall picture around aviation, there is lots of trends in relation to some special threats. So our goal is to make sure we address those threats effectively. We have also a large number of agencies based at the airport, including some PSNI agencies. So it's all about, I would say, collaboration. Obviously, we welcome the CGI inspections and an opportunity to reflect where we are and how we interact with those services.
Thanks, Romain. And you've obviously mentioned there sometimes people are nervous about when they're going to fly, so all the more reason why they feel safe and they are safe when they're in the airport. And Mark, from the PSNI perspective, so obviously you have jurisdiction right across Northern Ireland, and Romain mentioned collaboration. So in terms of the PSNI partnership with both the other police services, how does that work from your perspective?
Well, we see the partnerships are very important with both separate police services. The function of the airport police is different, as has been described, from the harbour police. But in terms of the integration we have with them, what we want that to be is seamless. The Chief Constable does have a responsibility under Police and Act and other legislation for delivering services across. And there is a clear recognition that they're not large police services. They are clear functions in legislation, but if we don't work together, then we are going to miss, particularly in issues like serious crime or where surge operations are required or national security matters, that those issues won't be covered. So by working together, that closes that gap down. And I see this report and some of the recommendations as an opportunity to build on what we already have and to develop those relationships, partnerships further, and develop some clarity as well, which I think can only bring benefits.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's what we aim to do. Claire, as the lead inspector, just the heads up from you in terms of the key findings, and you can't mention all the recommendations, but certainly the Mark's mentioned about that collaboration and making sure that those partnerships do work really well. So what was your experience and what did you find?
Well, the experience was a very positive one. It was interesting from our perspective, I guess, to get in and see these organisations that we don't see so often. But in terms of key findings, we did see that both services were working with the PSNI, and that relationship had been improving over time. We'd be keen for that to develop further. So I guess one of the recommendations there is for that memorandum of understanding between the PSNI and the other two services, particularly to bring about some clarity on those roles and responsibilities. And I guess the areas we picked up on were those really high risk crime types, around serious sexual offences or domestic abuse and those things, which maybe people wouldn't necessarily associate with, for example, crimes at the airport, but it does happen, maybe not so frequently, but we would like to see more clarity around, who's dealing with those sorts of things to really bring out that collaborative working.
So in the report, we also talk about the topical at the minute around a digital strategy, and there seems to be a lot of paper-based systems. Any comments from both either Romain or Michael about what that might look like, more digitisation and more efficiency driven through digital working?
I mean, one of Belfast Harbour Police's priorities is high visibility policing on the ground to reassure not just people that live and work there, but all the visitors that we attract. And we've a massive amount of cruise operations over the years. People come down for weekends. It's just an attractive part of Belfast to be in. So it's important that with the small resources that we do have, that we do make the best use of them. And high visibility policing on the ground is part and parcel of that strategy. And not having police officers sitting in offices typing up paper files is one of my goals. And digitisation would really, really help with that. We have been working with the court service and PSNI with regards to access to the niche case preparation system within niche. And we've also, it's mentioned in the report, we have a criminal justice unit which we've set up to mirror the case preparation unit within PSNI. And again, it's a mostly bureaucratic office. It prepares the files, as you say, they're prepared in paper. Mm-hmm. They're hand delivered to the PPS. Digitisation would take that away again, and it would just really add to the efficiency for us.
Yeah, same as Michael, we welcome this recommendation. I think we're not as advanced as the Belfast Harbour Police, but we welcome the feedback, and I'm keen to engage with Michael's team to understand how it can benefit to our operation. Visibility is also very key for us. As I said, we process tens of thousands of passengers every single day. So making sure we have a safe presence in the terminal for our passenger and stakeholders is one of the key objectives. But definitely looking at better ways to support both our officers, but also the general public is welcome.
Okay, and just wanted to bring you in, Mark. I mean, one of the lead recommendations is around that review of policing at airports and for the PSNI to lead on that. So any views from you on how that will be taken forward?
Yeah, so we have worked closely with national colleagues. The Aviation Security Airport Policing Command portfolio, although it's a mouthful, is a national portfolio. And it is intended to look at all aspects of aviation policing and things like the management of freight, because aviation goes far further than people realise in terms of things like known consigners who deliver goods to the airport that are then shipped. There's a lot more to aviation and harbour policing as well than people would realise, and it spans much further in our communities. So in terms of the sort of development of the partnerships and the alignment that you talk about around the sort of policing priorities and what we're all doing together, and the conversation that you've just had about why is digitisation better, the Chief Constable has said several times recently, we're looking at the victim journey now, we're looking at what this looks like in terms of what people's experience is of the criminal justice system, us and others included, and any opportunity that we've got that we can enhance that, make that better, and make sure we do it together so we're all aligned. So it doesn't matter where the crossover is, because every serious crime is going to start with the police officers at the front end of it who engage with people. So right through to it may end up with one of our specialist crime teams or our terrorist investigation units, or it may be a matter that can be dealt with locally, but what we're going to see is consistency, make sure it's appropriately delivered, and make sure that people understand at every step of the journey what's happening and why. And so coming back to things like the one you just mentioned about digitisation, it's a clear win that we're all using the same systems and that we're all working together in that.
Yeah. Michael, we've talked about the expansion of the harbour estate and it just seems to be continually growing and a real asset to Northern Ireland, not just to Belfast City, but and a hugely strategically important. So you obviously will have experience to bring to that review that's focused on airports. So how do you see that benefiting the harbour estate?
Well, I mean, we have an airport within our area, and once you realise that it's a PSNI responsibility through all the legislation that they have to answer to for airports through Mark, we still provide that frontline service. If someone calls the police or dials 999, it's the Harbour Police that attend the airport. So again, it's essential that collaboration aspect about all things really in the harbour, not just the airport, but any vulnerability which is across all of the country. The whole collaboration with PSNI and all the other agencies is essential, and it does tie in to airport policing too. We will be the first ones there.
And I think, sorry, that what I gave you was the outcome, and what you're asking me was how we were going to do it. So
we always like to see a bit of action.
We're giving you the outcome and how we were going to do it. So it is a national portfolio. We have a number of methodologies, one of them zero-based methodology sort of approach, which are applied to what are the requirements of aviation and airport security. And they bleed over because the risks that we manage are the same for harbours and other things. So they're a good benchmark in terms of what is it we should be looking at and what should the policing posture and profile look like. So what we're doing is leaning on to national colleagues, getting best practice in terms of that, particularly around that zero-based methodology, and then building it in. The Aviation Security Act in 1982 outlines what the responsibilities are, sets out how you'll go about your risk advisory group process, your security executive group process, how you'll identify your threat, risk and harm. And we'll use that as a baseline for what is it that we need to deal with. We'll then look at what does policing of that look like and how do partners become involved in that, because again, it's not just a partnership between the three organisations. It's a much broader partnership with Border Force, with a whole range of other partners who work at the airport, security, right down to the staff and their involvement. And we'll use those methodologies to look at how do we deliver policing, and then what other functionality around that is important. And the example I give is, one of the things we really need is engaged staff, because we can deploy as many police officers as we want into an airport building, but if we don't engage the staff to be the eyes and ears and have confidence that if they talk to us we'll act, then we've turned our back on a huge resource and opportunity. So we'll take methodology that is already well known and understood within the portfolio that I hold. We'll develop terms of reference with the partners, and then we'll move forward in carrying out that review, and with a clear intention of enhancing the service that we provide. And the one thing that I do want to say is, we need to give people confidence that our airports and our harbours are safe, because
Absolutely.
they are. I wouldn't come here and do a podcast if I didn't think they were safe. But I think what we have all seen from the recommendations and what we know from the review is we can all do more to enhance that. And we're all happy to do that and keen to be involved in it.
Yeah, and I think that's absolutely an important message for us as well in publishing this report about this is about assurance that people are safe when they're in our airports or when the harbour is state, and there's a whole team of people who are making sure that happens and the law is enforced in those areas. But I suppose for me, this report was a bit more challenging for you and for the international airport, it's fair to say, but it was very much focused on improvement, and you have been very responsive to the issues that were raised, and we've had some good conversations about that. So maybe if you could tell us a bit about what has happened since we had those initial conversations and before this report's published.
Yeah, sure. As I said in the introduction, I think it's a good opportunity to reflect where we are and what's look like the future for us in terms of collaboration with the external agencies and as well as the PSNI. As discussed, the airport is a complex site. We're talking about 1,000 acres site, control site by our security provider with lots of passengers. So the complexity of running an airport is fairly high, but again, I think the inspection gives us a good tool to move on and to identify area of improvements. It highlights as well some positives around our existing relationship with the PSNI, our response time. We have basically police officers based on site 24/7, being able to respond and collaborate with PSNI depending on the nature of the incidents. So definitely some positives from the report, but also some area in improvements in terms of leadership, governance, accountability, training, digitalization. So a number of steps have been already undertaken, including some meetings with the Belfast Harbour Police and the PSNI to understand what kind of critical step we need to move on. We conducted first overview of our rank structure and our organization in order to shape the next few years in terms of leadership and accountability. Huge focus as well on the training aspects, especially around domestic abuse and violence against women and girls. Lots of focus has been put here just to make sure we carry on. Lots already collaboration with PSNI around training. We have lots of discussion with Mark team. So yeah, lots going on, but it's I think it's the beginning of an exciting journey for us and a positive for our passengers, staff, and stakeholders.
Yeah, and I think that's certainly what we find. Claire, just want to bring you in here about it. It's about strengthening what already exists, and there's lots of good foundations to build on.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, when we were at the airport, yes, I mean, the staff were first of all very engaging, when they welcomed the inspection, they welcomed us being there, but, more than that, you could see that they were dedicated to what what they had done. Some of them had been, ex-PSNI officers, and, they were police officers to their core, and that's what they love doing, and they were, really keen to continue doing that. So, yeah, I mean, I'm really encouraged to hear the steps that have been taken at the airport, and so we're looking forward to sort of seeing those relationships develop more, especially with the PSNI and yourselves, and sort of seeing things become sort of more transparent and more accountable.
But your feedback has been very important to us, and thanks for your effort as well as David. You mentioned that being the first inspection of around 30 years of operation has been an interesting journey for us, but definitely we take the positives and we'll move on.
Yeah. All I can say is, Remain, I definitely won't be back doing another inspection in 30 years' time. Claire, just to kind of finish off with you, if we can, around what happens next, and as the lead inspector, what do you want to see happen next?
Well, yes, we just want to see what is happening. I mean, everyone's developed action plans around recommendations, which is really helpful, to see that what you are planning on doing. So it's seeing progress against those and moving forward together. I mean, having everyone around the table at one time now even is a good starting point, and it's good to hear those relationships are building, because we do think that particularly between yourselves, Michael and Roman, that there's important connections to be made there in terms of learning from each other. There's lots of learning to see there. So it's moving those forward and seeing some progress against those recommendations.
Yeah, I think even if we're talking about two different sites, two different strategies, there is still complexities, whether it's harbour or of the airport. So any learnings, also the learnings from the previous inspection from the Belfast Harbour Police has been pretty helpful to see, what kind of action we need to take as an organisation.
Yeah, and we've already reached out to Remain and his staff with regards to training, because we have a fairly detailed training plan every year, and we'll certainly help with any development they want to do along their training side as well, because it's essential.
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, we certainly don't underestimate the complexities of what you're doing and what your staff are doing, and to thank them for everything that they're doing on the ground every day to keep us all safe. We certainly think that there's a lot of benefits, and that's those stronger connections and partnerships, and look forward to seeing how those recommendations are implemented. Can I just thank you all for attending today and taking part? Claire, Michael, Remain and Mark, and hope that you take forward those recommendations and implement them.
Thank you.
Thank you.